Let's start it with our first news. In the ever-evolving world of mixed martial arts, few names have carried as much weight and legacy as Ronda Rousey. Once the face of women's MMA and a trailblazer for female athletes in combat sports, Rousey's potential return to the octagon has once again become a topic of heated speculation. Recent rumors have suggested that the former UFC women's bantamweight champion may be preparing for a comeback, and UFC President Dana White has finally broken his silence on the matter. Speaking at the post-fight press conference following UFC 320, Dana White was asked directly about the swirling reports surrounding Rousey's future. White, who has always maintained a close friendship and professional respect for Ronda, offered a candid and measured response. "Ronda and I are still very close," White began. "We talk probably once every 3 months or so. She was actually in Las Vegas recently and stopped by the offices. But honestly, I don't know what her plans are right now. From what I can tell, she's just training again." White went on to elaborate on Rousey's current lifestyle and personal priorities, noting how much her life has evolved since her dominant run in the UFC. "She just had 3 babies," he said. "She's in a completely different place in her life these days. But I will say this, she looks incredible. She's in amazing shape right now, ripped like she used to be back in her fighting days. So who knows what the future holds." Rousey, who stepped away from MMA following her 2016 loss to Amanda Nunes, has since transitioned to a successful stint in professional wrestling with WWE and focused on her family life. However, her recent public comments about dealing with neurological issues earlier this year reignited concern and curiosity about whether she would ever compete again. Veteran MMA journalist Ariel Helwani also weighed in on the growing rumors during his On the Nose segment this week. According to Helwani, if Ronda Rousey were ever to step back into the cage, there's only one opponent that would make sense for her, a matchup years in the making. "She's not just working out for the sake of staying in shape," Helwani said. "Now, is she officially tied to the UFC? Not necessarily. Conceivably, a promotion like PFL could go and offer her a massive deal, maybe even something like $100 million. She's not contractually bound to the UFC at this point, but she does have a deep history and strong relationship with them." Helwani went on to suggest that if a return were to happen, it should be against Gina Carano, another pioneering figure in women's MMA who, like Rousey, helped build the sport into what it is today. "If there's even a slight chance of Rousey coming back," he said, "the only fight that truly makes sense is Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. It's the kind of matchup that could capture global attention." Although Rousey has publicly dismissed interest in fighting on the much-discussed White House card, Dana White made it clear that the door is never fully closed. "If Ronda ever wants to talk about coming back, I'll always be here to listen," he concluded. Whether or not a Rousey comeback ever materializes, one thing is certain: her name continues to command attention and respect in the combat sports world. Nearly a decade after her final UFC appearance, Ronda Rousey remains one of the most influential and iconic athletes the sport has ever seen. Before we jump into the next story, we have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon. It really helps us out and ensures you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. The ongoing tension between rising light heavyweight contender Carlos Ulberg and former UFC champion Yuri Prochazka has taken a new turn. What began as a simple scheduling issue has now evolved into a public back and forth, with both fighters offering conflicting accounts of what really happened behind the scenes. Ahead of his upcoming bout with Khalil Rountree, Yuri Prochazka recently made headlines by accusing Carlos Ulberg of turning down a fight against him. Prochazka, known for his warrior spirit and willingness to take on all challengers, suggested that Ulberg wasn't eager to face him in the octagon, an accusation that immediately grabbed attention among fans and media. However, Ulberg has now come forward to set the record straight. Appearing this week on the Ariel Helwani show, the surging contender from New Zealand firmly denied the claims, explaining that the situation was far more complicated than Prochazka made it seem. "It wasn't how Yuri put it, like I was trying to avoid him or denied the fight," Ulberg said. "That's not what happened at all. I was dealing with an injury at the time and asked the UFC if we could push the fight back to November. I just needed a little more time to heal properly before taking on such a dangerous opponent." Ulberg emphasized that his decision wasn't about fear or hesitation, but rather a matter of health and preparation. "This isn't the kind of fight you accept at less than 100%, he continued. "Yuri is one of the most unpredictable and dangerous fighters in the division. I wanted to give myself the best chance to prepare physically and mentally. That's why I asked for the fight to be moved, not cancelled." According to Ulberg, the UFC did not clearly communicate the full context of his request to Prochazka, which may have caused the misunderstanding. "I didn't expect the UFC to tell him that I turned it down," he said. "That's not how it went down at all. I just wanted a short delay so I could come back stronger." Still, not everyone is convinced by Ulberg's version of events. MMA journalist Marcel Dorf weighed in on the debate, pointing out that the timeline raises questions. Ulberg said he couldn't fight Yuri in Perth because of an injury, but then agreed to face Dominic Reyes in September. Dorf noted, "That doesn't entirely add up. If you're injured and can't fight Prochazka, how can you fight Reyes just a few weeks earlier?" While this discrepancy controversy has fueled speculation, Ulberg remains focused on his career trajectory rather than engaging in a war of words. He reiterated that his intention was always to fight Prochaska, just under the right circumstances. "I've got nothing but respect for Yuri," he stated. "But if we're talking about being the best in the division, then yeah, I'm ready to fight for the #1 contender spot. The ball's in his court now." As things stand, Ulberg's name continues to rise in the light heavyweight rankings. With his growing fan base and an impressive streak of performances, it seems only a matter of time before a matchup with Prochaska becomes inevitable. Whether the two eventually meet in November or sometime later, one thing is clear: both fighters are on a collision course that could very well determine the next title challenger at 205 pounds. For now, all eyes will be on how Prochaska responds. If Ulberg's words are any indication, the rivalry between these two elite competitors is just heating up. Move on to another news. The MMA community erupted with concern after Khamzat Chimaev shared an Instagram video that showed him training in front of a prominent portrait of Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. The post quickly sparked speculation and heated discussion online, with many observers questioning whether the imagery reflected voluntary support, political posturing, or something far more coercive. Social media reactions were immediate and intense. Numerous fans and commentators theorized that Chimaev may be under pressure to publicly demonstrate allegiance to Kadyrov, with some suggesting that refusal could place his family or close associates at risk. Those claims, while unverified, drew on broader anxieties about how authoritarian figures can exert influence over high-profile athletes from their regions. For many viewers, the optics of a world-class fighter training beneath a political leader's portrait felt both unsettling and inexplicable. A number of high-profile critics called out what they described as Chimaev's mandatory displays of deference. One commentator argued that, regardless of his personal feelings, Chimaev's public profile has been overshadowed by images that place Kadyrov at the forefront, even eclipsing the fighter's own championship accomplishments in the eyes of some followers. That sentiment captured a recurring theme in the conversation: the tension between sporting achievement and political symbolism. Others urged caution, reminding the public that online posts can be complicated and that speculation about coercion should not be treated as fact. Supporters pointed out that athletes often participate in culturally significant ceremonies or photograph with local leaders during homecomings. Those gestures do not necessarily constitute endorsement of controversial politics. Still, many voices emphasized the need for sensitivity. Whether voluntary or enforced, such displays have consequences for how the athlete is perceived globally, and they may carry real-world implications for safety and freedom. The tone of the discussion ranged from outraged to sympathetic. Some commenters expressed fear for Chimaev's personal safety and that of his family, arguing that the stakes could be extremely high if a powerful political actor were to demand public loyalty. Others framed the situation as tragic: a talented athlete seemingly caught between career ambitions, national pride, and uncomfortable political obligations. A smaller contingent dismissed the controversy as overblown, attributing the backlash to social media sensationalism. Beyond immediate reactions, the episode raises broader questions about how sport and politics intersect, especially when athletes originate from regions where power dynamics are fraught and public gestures of loyalty may be expected. For global stars like Chimaev, every public action is magnified. Teammates, fans, and critics will continue to scrutinize his appearances and statements for signs of voluntary support or coercion. At its core, the debate has underscored a shared concern: regardless of motive, the safety and well-being of Chimaev and his loved ones should remain paramount. Many in the MMA community have called for restraint in making unverified claims while simultaneously urging vigilance and compassion. As the conversation unfolds, observers will no doubt watch closely for any clarifying statements from Chimaev or his camp, and for any further context that might explain the motives behind the post. Move on to another news. UFC lightweight contender Arman Tsarukyan has never been one to hold back his opinions, and this week was no exception. During a recent appearance on the Ariel Helwani show, the Armenian-Russian standout shared his thoughts on the current state of the lightweight division and gave a blunt assessment of Paddy Pimblett's chances against reigning featherweight champion Ilia Topuria. As of now, the UFC has not officially announced Topuria's first opponent for his upcoming title defense. With several contenders jockeying for position, speculation has run wild about who might get the call. Following the recent announcement of Tsarukyan vs Dan Hooker, attention has shifted to other names in the mix, such as Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, who could be next in line depending on scheduling and market appeal. When asked whether he believed Pimblett could defeat Topuria, Tsarukyan didn't mince words. No way, he said firmly. The only fighter in our division who can beat Ilia right now is me. Everybody knows that, even the UFC knows it. That's why they're trying to push him as much as possible. But if I get that fight, I'll beat him. Tsarukyan's confidence comes as no surprise to longtime fans. Known for his relentless wrestling pressure, conditioning, and well-rounded skill set, he's been a rising force in the lightweight division. His only setbacks have come against elite opposition, including Islam Makhachev in a razor-close fight early in his UFC career. Since then, Tsarukyan has evolved significantly, stringing together impressive wins and establishing himself himself as one of the division's most dangerous contenders. Still, before Tsarukyan can think about a title shot, he has business to handle inside the octagon against New Zealand veteran Dan Hooker. The fight is expected to serve as a key eliminator, potentially determining the next challenger for the lightweight title.
Confident in his game plan, Tsarukyan made it clear what Hooker should expect come fight night. "Tell him to train how to defend wrestling," Tsarukyan said with a grin. "Because I'm just going to wrestle him for 25 minutes.
I'll pressure him from the start, take him down, and dominate. He better be ready, because I'm not giving him any space to breathe." Looking ahead, Tsarukyan believes that a dominant victory over Hooker will leave the UFC with no choice but to grant him a shot at gold. "Hopefully, I go out there and beat Hooker convincingly," he said. "I want to perform very well, finish him, show my level, and then fight for the title early next year, maybe January or February."
That's the plan. If Tsarukyan secures a statement win, the timing could work perfectly. With Ilia Topuria's next move still uncertain and lightweight contenders like Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira in flux, Tsarukyan could emerge as the clear front-runner.
Whether or not the UFC agrees remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: Arman Tsarukyan's self-belief is unwavering. He's confident that he, and only he, has the skills to dethrone a powerhouse like Ilia Topuria. As the lightweight division continues to heat up, fans can expect fireworks when Tsarukyan steps into the cage next, potentially setting the stage for one of the most anticipated title fights of 2025.
Move on to another news.
Reigning UFC light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira has once again shown that his sense of humor is as sharp as his devastating left hook. In a move that sent social media into a frenzy, Pereira released a video earlier today poking fun at rival Magomed Ankalaev, cleverly referencing the Russian contender's recent comments about him going back to the tire shop. The lighthearted yet cutting clip featured Pereira returning to an actual tire shop, a playful nod to Ankalaev's earlier jab implying that Pereira didn't belong among the division's elite and should go back to changing tires. Rather than taking offense, Pereira leaned fully into the joke, turning it into a viral moment that had fans and fellow fighters alike laughing across the internet. In the video, Pereira can be seen walking confidently through a tire shop, inspecting wheels, and even pretending to work on a car. With his trademark stoic expression, the Brazilian captioned the post with a cheeky statement: "Magomed was right, I'm back at the tire shop." The humor was unmistakable, and fans quickly flooded the comments section, praising Pereira for his ability to blend confidence, charisma, and comedy in one masterstroke of trolling. Adding another layer to the joke, viewers noticed a subtle detail in the background: a tool labeled Ankalaev placed beside Pereira as he posed next to a tire. The Easter egg didn't go unnoticed. Many interpreted it as a clever metaphor suggesting that Pereira had turned Ankalaev into just another tool in his workshop, a fighter he could handle with ease. The symbolism perfectly captured Pereira's cool yet intimidating energy, solidifying his reputation as one of the sport's most self-assured and creative personalities. The playful video quickly began trending across MMA social media circles, sparking reactions from fans, journalists, and even fellow fighters. Many praised Pereira for turning Ankalaev's insult into comedy gold, while others applauded his ability to control the narrative outside the octagon. "Powhatan is a master at mental warfare," one fan wrote. "He didn't just respond, he flipped the entire insult into a meme. That's championship-level trolling." Another user commented, "Alex Pereira doesn't just win fights, he wins the internet." This isn't the first time Pereira has used humor and subtle digs to get under an opponent's skin. Known for his calm demeanor and stone-faced confidence, Pereira rarely engages in trash talk directly, but when he does, it's often in the form of dry wit or understated trolling that lands harder than any verbal insult. His approach contrasts sharply with Ankalaev's more serious and confrontational tone, making the back-and-forth even more entertaining for fans. While there's no official confirmation of a rematch between the two, the ongoing tension and public banter between Pereira and Ankalaev continue to build anticipation. If and when they meet inside the cage again, the storyline will be about more than just skill, it'll be about pride, redemption, and who gets the last laugh. For now, Pereira's tire shop video stands as yet another reminder of why he's one of the most compelling champions in MMA today, not just for his knockout power, but for his unmatched ability to stay composed, clever, and completely in control, both inside and outside the octagon.